Islam was an ideology. For the first time in my life as a student of international affairs, I let something in my own feelings as a Muslim vibrate. I have been studying very hard, combating Islamic ideology, and we tend to forget history. A man I have admired as a great visionary, General and President de Gaulle, in response to Vincent Montet, a distinguished professor, Orientalist, I had the privilege to interview for my work. He wrote a book on Muslims in the Soviet Union. And he sent a copy to General de Gaulle before General de Gaulle came back to power. And General de Gaulle answered Vincent Montet with this wonderful quote. I told him, if I understood you well, the problem of problems is Islam. This was in the mid-50s. I had the privilege to be an NEH fellow at the Center for Middle Eastern Studies at Harvard about 34 years ago. And the theme was Islam and religious minorities in the Middle East and the Soviet Union. When we see the story, the tragedy about the Yazidi today, for instance, we realize what I would like to submit to the panelists, since they had different perspectives around Islam in these various conflicts. Islam was used ideologically by Western powers. The Baghdad Pact that created Sando was to create a Muslim resistance to communism, if my memory is correct. Not only the West has been fighting Islamists, but Muslim countries in the Middle East and beyond have been fighting Islamism. Nasser executed Sayyid Qutb. I was very disappointed as a very young man invited to lecture at Sandhurst, the British Military Academy, when I learned during the war between De Gaulle and Bourguiba about Bizerta. And I learned in 1961, the year in the summer when the war was established, officially dividing Germany, that the opponent of Habib Bourguiba, the moderate, the great leader, the man who emancipated women, had Ben Yusuf assassinated because he was a pan-Arabist Islamist. So, if we forget that political Islam was not a creation only by Muslim movements, the Arab Spring that started in Tunisia, and Nahda reacted to Bourguiba because he touched on fundamental tenets of Islam when he emancipated women and prohibited polygamy. So the French National Center for Scientific Research published a few years ago only a monumental work, Islam in France, over 1,200 pages. I haven't yet finished. In which we find that Islam was in France before France became France. Because France was divided, small, until Napoleon began to really create France.
In 3 parts.
Okay? So, and I, in my last few years, I've been working on Islam in Europe. Now I am moving to the East, where we find Le Monde Diplomatique last year published a wonderful article on the oldest Islam in Europe, which is in the Balkans. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is what I want to share with you about how I learned a lot from the different perspectives, and how I would like to also to address these issues if they deserve your attention. Thank you, everybody. The floor is yours. Yes, sir. Please be brief and make sure it's a question. And identify yourselves. We'll be happy to do it.
Yeah, I am Alam, and I am working at the Center for
once I define very briefly, it is enforcing a way of life on somebody else. Our sister talked about Muslim Brotherhood. They wanted to practice non-violent means, so they were targeted. Houthis, they asked to come into the political mainstream. Iran, which is a common denominator of violence, so-called violence, but all the US allies which are against the Iran somehow are even violent. Iran is stable with the agreement. So what I want to bring out with all these conclusions is that what is political extremism? If the powers of today, they want to enforce the democracy or a system, what they think appeals to them in all the countries, isn't it also extremism or radicalization in one way, targeting what they think is wrong and supporting what they think is right, even it may be the cause of all the menace. So I would like to ask your kind comments, all the panelists, whoever like. Thank you.
Thank you.
My brother from Pakistan. No, extremism is different. This is not Islam. Islam, as Dr. mentioned, is the religion of tolerance. But when you mix politics with Islam, this is the problem. This is the problem with ISIS. This is the problem with Muslim Brotherhood here, where I don't agree with Dr. Lynch. In fact, they present themselves as a moderate, and under the ground, they have their connection with the extremism. Egypt under Morsi, all the extremists who enter Egypt because the border was loose. So that's why we have all the violent action now in Egypt. But forcing is the same. What is ISIS is doing is forcing the others to follow their rules. And this is, I won't consider them, this is different between Islam as a religion and Muslim. It doesn't mean when you do something wrong that this is the mistake of Islam. It's yourself as a person. So whatever you are going to do as a Christian, as Jews, as atheists, whatever, it belongs to you as a person. It doesn't belong to the religion you have. So, but that's why wearing the hat of Islam, what is ISIS is doing, or Al-Qaeda is doing, or any extremist group is doing, this has nothing to do with Islam now. But you are talking about forcing the others, and we are talking about the West forcing the other. We are against any somebody or country forcing the other to wear their hat in terms of their values, their norms. Because, and this is the problem with the US when they invaded Iraq and the Bush administration, they didn't know the culture of the society. So that was, from that moment, we have this problem in the region, Shia against Sunni, Christian against Muslim against, so because we lived in the Middle East all together before the nation state, before the nation state, before the bill for promise, Muslim with the Christian, with Jews, with everybody in peace. But the problem, when you mix the politics with the religion, this is what happened. And I agree with you, Doctor, when you said that who created the political Islam, you are right. We did not create it. In fact, Afghanistan, Doctor, we did not create Mujahideen yet. We supported Afghanistan with Mujahideen, but that was not the idea of GCC. That was the idea of the United States to confront the communism. And that was the mistake, and now blaming the Muslim, blaming the GCC, that providing with the extremists. So going to history and going back to facts, it will really explain many of phenomena we are facing these days.
Thank you. And please, Dr.
Islam and ideology, and also that it's rational to be scared of Islam. And that's part of what I was talking about this really, really quite alarming rhetoric that came out of the campaign. And it's also, I think it is just important to know that most of those people are gone. They either didn't get jobs with the administration as people expected them to, or in Flynn's case, they were removed. And so there are still a few people in the administration who have that kind of approach, but they're not in the ascendant right now. But again, that could change, again, if there's a terrorist attack or different personnel come in. But I agree with you completely about the impact that that rhetoric had early in the campaign on Muslims and on those of us who studied it. It was quite profound. And I think that most people who are not Muslim or who don't study this probably had no idea about how that would sound, how much impact it would actually have, and how much damage it would do. So yeah, I think it's an extremely important point. On the question of what is political extremism and violence, I think one point which is important to keep in mind is that there is Islamist and jihadist violence, and there's also non-Islamist violence. And it's a general issue in political science that we try and grapple with all the time, is the relative importance of the ideas of individuals and groups versus the political context. And I generally feel like when you have violent context, everyone is violent. And when you have peaceful context, people are generally nonviolent. And I think that one of the things we've seen is places like Afghanistan, right? It's been at war since 1978, 1980, depending on how you count. The rise of Muslim Brotherhood violence in Egypt is post-2013, after the regime massacred 1,000 people in broad daylight. You tend to have violent context producing violent responses. And to me, analytically, the real question is where you have peaceful context, will Islamists be nonviolent? That's always been the major question. And I think that the general, and I mean, it varies by context and by case, but generally the answer has been yes, but not always. And I think that's why we study it so much. The last point that I wanted to make here is this, looking specifically at ISIS and at support for ISIS. There's a fascinating debate. You might have seen, there was a write-up of it in the New York Times just a couple of days ago. There's been this fascinating debate taking place among two very well-known French scholars, Gilles Capel and Olivier Waugh. And the debate is basically over this exact question. Does Islam produce violence, or does violence produce Islamism? And Olivier Waugh has a fascinating new book out where he went and studied a whole bunch of Europeans who joined ISIS. And what he basically found out again and again and again, looking at their biographies, is that these were marginal, violent people who then became Islamists. Many of them weren't even Muslim. Many of them had never studied Islam, but they were basically attracted to a violent ideology because they were violent people who wanted to do violent things, which is very different from the idea that you have devout Muslims who then become radicalized as they embrace an ideology and then go on to commit terrorism, which I think is the way a lot of people understand the radicalization process. It's a hugely important debate that's going on right now, and I think obviously it will continue.
Thank you. Dr. Gurney?
Yeah, I'll just make two brief points. So first, there's been a lot of focus on Islam and Islamism, and it makes sense given the makeup of the panel. But I think there's also a good case to be made that Islam in the Middle East will be less important going forward as part of U.S. foreign policy. So I teach international relations theory at Georgetown, and all the major international relations theories start from the premise that what really matters in international politics are great powers, and great power relations is the center of international politics and a country's foreign policy. And I think we saw that up until 1991 historically. Think about the 20th century, World War I, World War II, the Cold War. It was all about great power relations. Then 1991, the Soviet Union collapses, and we're kind of blessed with this 25-year respite from great power politics. And so I think the United States had the luxury in a way to focus on, in a way less, still important, but less, searching for the right word, arguably less important issues than great power politics. So we focused on Iraq, Afghanistan, Al-Qaeda, ISIS. But since 2014, great power politics has really reemerged. Again, Russia's invading another country in Europe. China's becoming more assertive. And so I think we could see Europe and Asia becoming a more central part of West had somehow forced its way of life on others, and I guess I would just defend the record of the West looking at the broad sweep of history. After 1945, the United States was left as the most powerful country on earth. It didn't really seek out empire or hegemony, but it was the other great powers had destroyed themselves, and the United States was left in that position, left with forces on the ground in Europe and Asia from fighting these wars. In these territories then where the United States had new influence, it encouraged the spread of democratic institutions, encouraged free trade, encouraged working through international institutions, this kind of rules-based international order. And I think over the past 70 years, the record has been pretty astounding in terms of the number of people living in freedom, economic development around the world, order in international politics. And so this was one of the major issues that caused people like us concerned during the campaign, is that it seemed like Clinton, it seemed like Rubio kind of believed in this idea of a US-led international order that's been good for the world. And people really questioned whether Trump bought into that or not, whether Trump's advisors bought into that. And I think why some of us are somewhat relieved is that it does seem like now there is this idea that the United States is a special country, has a leadership role to play. And President Trump said some things along those lines in response to the Syria chemical weapons attack, for example. So I'll put the record of the West in terms of its effect on international politics up with anyone else's.
Thank you. So Ruben.
Well, history didn't start in 1945. There was a thing called colonialism. And then there was the overthrow of Mossadegh and many other such things that are not consistent with the rules-based international order. However, let's talk about extremism. The target, it's very important that the target is not extremism, it's violent extremism. Okay. Now, in my opinion, we have Christian extremists in the US government. We certainly have Jewish extremists in the Israeli government. But most of them are not violent. Okay, we do have some violent Christian extremists, Timothy McVeigh and others. So the problem, there's a problem with extremism, but nonviolent extremism shouldn't be dealt with the same way as violent extremism. Okay, that is, and of course, the boundaries are not 100% clear. That is very true. That's what we have police and intelligence agencies for. But it's very important to make it clear that the target is violence. We're not waging a war against other people's ideas.
Thank you. Please, go to that side. Yes, please.
I wanted to ask a question about foreign policy and about the fact that the Trump administration, the president has suggested that he would cut the State Department funding, which would affect a lot of the work that's done. I was in Djibouti when that came out, sitting with the USAID representative, and his reaction was, well, that would be horrible for what we're trying to accomplish in the way of peace. And General Mattis even said the more money you spend on foreign policy effectively, the less you spend on bullets. So that, I think, was a 43% cut, and it would be effective.